Let's delve deeper into what the Prime Minister has said in that extensive speech that was made by him shortly after he was elected unanimously as the leader of the National Democratic Alliance after that historic mandate in the country's general elections. Amy Kazmi, South Asia Bureau Chief with the Financial Times, is now joining us on the broadcast. Also joining us is senior journalist Arun Anand and R.K. Upadhyay, senior journalist from Bengaluru. Coming to you first, Amy, I want to begin by asking you for your initial reaction to the words that have been used by the Indian Prime Minister when it comes to describing this election as a move which has helped in uniting the society. And if I were to quote the remark that has been made by him, 2019 elections work towards breaking down walls and connecting hearts, becoming a way to unite the society.
I mean, look, it's clear that the victory of the BJP in this election has, expanded their base tremendously. Their vote share has gone up from 31% to 36%, and they have won support among many, many groups that were not the traditional BJP core voters. So there's very much a feeling that, they have united the country or united large parts of the country in the place where they are present behind them, and they have every right to be reveling in that they have drawn support from, they've if in the past Indian politics was seen as heavily caste driven, certain castes voted from this party, certain castes voted for that party. It's clear that in this they have united large numbers of people behind a central idea, and that idea is essentially Narendra Modi as the leader of this country. So I think that his words are an apt reflection of the mandate that they have received.
R.K. Upadhyay, I want to ask you first to elaborate on what the last few hours have suggested in terms of the priorities of the new government over the next 100 days.
Well, Molly, as you could see, the Prime Minister looked very relaxed and confident, and he spoke for, I think, about 75 minutes, in his usual style. For me, the biggest takeaway was, he was including the welfare of the Muslims. I think it's for the first time that has come from the Prime Minister. He has given a new slogan, along with Sabka Saath and Sabka Vikas. Today he said Sabka Vishwas. That is where he is bringing in the minorities as well. He said the minorities have so far been used by, he didn't mention Congress party, but like the vote bank, and they have not been given their due justice. So he says they belong among the poor, and we need to uplift them like any other poor in the country. So this is the biggest takeaway from his speech today. This is a new Mr. Narendra Modi. I think is confident of taking his own decisions without looking at his back whether the RSS will approve of it or not. So this is something very, very welcome, I would say. And he also talked about how in 2014, when his government came to power, it worked for the poor. Now he says it's the poor who brought this government back. So obviously he was referring to some of the schemes which have reached the people, which have really made the difference in this election, because people have voted across, caste and religious considerations. So this is another thing that he brought out in his speech. So overall, I feel that, he looks very, very confident, and he knows that contrary to lots of expectations, the UPA was able to even increase its number of seats in this election. Everybody was talking about UPA falling short by about 20-30, and they may have to take some outside support. But as it is, they really have a very, very big mandate.
And he's said that the hard work of every BJP worker and member of parliament and a BJP leader over the last 5 years has resulted in that historic mandate. I also want to get in Arun Anand at this point at the jibes that we also saw coming in from the Prime Minister targeting the opposition for what he calls the vote bank politics, saying that minorities have been made to live in fear in the country. thanks to the vote bank politics, also saying that this is an opportunity for the people of the country to unite and send out a strong message. What do you think the larger message here at this point is?
I think the larger message is, he is trying to change the paradigm of Indian politics. The marginalized sections of the society who remained at the fringe, despite being big sloganeering from Congress over the last 60-65 years. So whether it is the minorities or whether it is the poor, so he is trying to bring in both of them in the mainstream. And I think the BJP has got a huge mandate from the rural India. See, till 2014 or till 2019, BJP was still considered to be a party of the urban India. But he has broken that myth. And now, with this speech, he has clearly indicated it is an extension of actually what he spoke in the BJP office on the day the counting was held. He specifically talked about secularism, the way word secularism has been manipulated by Congress and the rest of the non-BJP parties. So he is redefining the paradigm. He is taking out that lip service which has been paid, and he really wants to also be all-inclusive. The presence of all the NDA leaders there, and also Advani and Joshi's presence there, because he has been accused in the past that he has sidelined the senior leadership of the party. So it's the all-inclusive approach. The bottom line is, the key emphasis is that it's going to be the all-inclusive approach of the Prime Minister. That has paid him in the past, and that is further going to consolidate the gains which they have made.
Regional aspirations and national ambition. Growth accelerates with the combination of these two. Very interesting statement coming in, R.K. Upadhyay. Is that also a message once again to the opposition or to those leaders who were trying to come up with the anti-Modi alliance and faced a setback personally during the election results as well?
Precisely. I think he's also, in his speech he mentioned that we will work for those who have, voted for us, and also those who have not voted for us. He's talking about expanding his support base, and he knows that in certain regions that, their people have not voted for the BJP, especially in the south, whether it's Tamil Nadu or Andhra Pradesh or Telangana. So people have not voted. It doesn't mean that the central government will not work with them. So he's talking about, federalism in the right sense. He being the Chief Minister of Gujarat for 12 years, he knows how difficult it is for a Chief Minister to work unless the central government also gives, good cooperation. So in the last 5 years, he has tried to do that, whether it was the implementation with GST, he brought in all the chief ministers and made sure that the implementation was possible. So he's looking at, at broadening this federal structure that he initiated in 2014, and I'm sure we will going to see the results of this. So this is what people like, M.K. Stalin would like to see. This is like, Jagan Mohan Reddy would like to see, or Chandrasekhar Rao. And people, or take, what is that, Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik. So they also are hungry for, development of those states, and the center has a very big role in giving the finances. So which probably this is what he means, that, you will not be left out because you are not voted for us.
Right. Amy Kazmi, an election is about numbers. Globally speaking, he says in his speech, Prime Minister Modi, the number of votes US President Donald Trump got was equal to the increase in the NDA's votes between 2014 and 2019. That statement in a way sums up for us what this election and this mandate really has been about. Prime Minister Modi is also only the second Prime Minister in the history of independent India to return with a bigger vote share. Did you expect these numbers in the run-up to the election results?
Look, first of all, I never really get into the number prediction game and the exact number of seats because I don't have the resources to kind of make these calls. But I feel that it was reasonably clear to me on our travels through India in the run-up to the election that Mr. Modi definitely had a lot of wind behind his sails, especially after the slight military showdown with Pakistan. And we heard from people over and over again this line that, he's had only, he's working hard, he's trying hard. Yes, he's made some mistakes. Many people that we talk to seem to think that the 2016 cash ban was a mistake, but they felt that he was trying hard, he was working hard, he was well-intentioned, and that he should be given another 5 years. He had only, they felt like they liked what they saw over the last 5 years, and they felt that he should be given more time to continue his work and try to fulfill his mission and, meet the aspirations of Indians. So I think it didn't, I didn't get into kind of the nitty-gritty of trying to predict how many seats in, UP, the BJP would get versus the Gathbandhan, because I'm just not, this is kind of, this takes great resources that we don't have. But I think my gut feeling all along was that Modi was coming back, and, maybe the size of the mandate is really somewhat surprising because it's just so unprecedented. As you said, nobody has had consecutive back-to-back single-party majorities in Parliament since Indira Gandhi. Mr. Modi in 2014, when he got that single-party majority, it was the first time since 1984 when Rajiv Gandhi was swept to power on a wave of sympathy after the assassination of Indira Gandhi. So nothing like what had been seen in 2014 had been seen since 30 years earlier in 1984, and nothing like this back-to-back consecutive single-party majorities has been seen since Indira Gandhi's time. So that really tells you a lot about the kind of incredible connect that Prime Minister Modi has been able to establish with voters, thanks to his image and also a very formidable BJP party machinery, and the way that they've reached out to voters, the way that they've reached out to the estimated 220 million people who have benefited from some of his key schemes, like the gas cylinders, like the affordable housing, like the toilets for Swachh Bharat. And the party machinery has been very active in making sure that everyone who benefited from one of these schemes has known exactly where the credit lies, and they have repaid in kind by placing their trust in Mr. Modi for another 5 years. So it's really, it's an amazing political achievement, and it means that, Prime Minister Modi has a kind of power that no leader in India has had since Indira Gandhi herself, and perhaps he even exceeds it, although that's kind of a long debate.
Right, a pro-incumbency wave, as he put it himself in that address shortly after he was elected as the NDA leader. Stay with me. I also want to take a listen in for the benefit of our viewers to the Indian Prime Minister, where he spoke about the role that women have played in this election. A very interesting statistic also coming up for you. Take a listen in first to what the Indian Prime Minister said.
2014 में लगता था कि महिला एमपी की संख्या हमारी काफी बड़ी है। इस बार हमने वो भी रिकॉर्ड तोड़ दिया जी। और भारत की आजादी के बाद पार्लियामेंट में इतनी बड़ी तादाद में महिला एमपी बैठने की पहली घटना हुई।
R.K. Upadhyay and Arun Anand, I want to get in your quick reaction on that. First to you, Arun Anand, a record number of women are set to enter the Indian Parliament, and that's something that the Indian Prime Minister in several statements, has spoken of. We've seen a clear message coming in with the appointment, for example, of Nirmala Sitharaman as the Defence Minister, with Sushma Swaraj helming the External Affairs Ministry. And this is something that has also been discussed widely across the world. It's a clear message that's come in from Narendra Modi once again.
See, Narendra Modi has actually been one of the most women-friendly Prime Minister, in the sense that the schemes which he had brought, like the building of toilets, women in the rural India and as well as in the slums in urban areas, they were the worst sufferers because of the absence of toilets. Also schemes like Ujjwala, which have provided them with LPG. So these are the schemes which have actually benefited women, and he has been getting, and then even triple talaq. He tried to provide respite to Muslim women also, though it could not get through because they don't have a majority in Rajya Sabha. So these are the kind of things which he has done, and he understands that women constitute a huge constituency, and interestingly, nobody had catered to them exclusively. He understood the importance, and he has done so, and he has reaped the benefits. Now he has to take it to the next level. See, you have certain politicians, women politicians, who have entered the parliament, who have been ministers. There are a larger number of women probably this time. But still, I would like to see this 1/3 reservation for women happening in parliament also. That is going to be one of the real challenges, whether they are going to bring that bill or not. And if they are going to bring that bill, so how the opposition is going to react, because we know there are certain parties who are not very comfortable with that. Also, they would not like to let Narendra Modi walk away with the credit of giving 1/3 reservation for women. So we need to see how this pans out, but I think his commitment, or his government's commitment towards greater participation of women in democracy would be reflected in the best possible manner if they are able to bring 1/3 reservation for women in parliament.
All right, and a word that's also coming from the Prime Minister, and I'm quoting him, "I am my biggest challenger." R.K. Upadhyay, what do you think the Prime Minister is trying to indicate through that? And this has, of course, been a wave election, something that I was discussing a short while earlier with Lord Meghnad Desai as well. Many analysts had called this an undercurrent election in the run-up to the election results, but a wave of popularity clearly has swept across the country, given the kind of results that we witnessed. In that speech as well, the Prime Minister has said that it was a pro-incumbency wave that swept across several parts of the country. So why do you think many did not see that wave on the horizon?
Only before talking about this, I would like to make a point about women's representation in Parliament. Of course, this time has been the highest, about 14% have got elected. But let's not forget that the political parties gave only 9%. 9% of the candidates were women. So it is fortunate that more of them have won. But as Anand was saying, the bigger challenge is to give them greater representation in terms of the candidates itself. So whether it's 1/3 or maybe 20% or 25% or whatever, the political parties have to sit and decide and work out as to what is the best way to do it. And they need to go forward, because this has been hanging fire for more than, I think, nearly 2 decades. It's time that this is done, because they have the mandate, they have the huge majority to go ahead with that. And if he does that, he will go down in history as someone who has really empowered women. So I'm sure it will be one of the priorities of this government going forward. Coming back to this, his assertion that for Modi is a challenger. That's right, because after we see these results, there is no challenger left for him. Rahul Gandhi tried his best to be a challenger, to project himself as a challenger, but, he and his party has really fallen flat. And the very fact that they have not been able to even, occupy the leader of the opposition post, that, they should have got 55 seats, but they're 3 short, it shows that the party really is on the downhill. So there needs to be a lot of reflection that party has to indulge in, and we have heard today that Rahul Gandhi offered to step down, but he has been persuaded to stay back. And this is all, a big drama, that unless they're serious about what they need to do, they are not going to really improve. Coming back to what Narendra Modi was saying about big challenge, you see, he has a huge challenge as far as running this government is concerned. He says that we need to take everybody along. We need to ensure that the poor get their dues, and then he also has a government which has to be up and running immediately, because economy is in very bad shape. In fact, I would say he was very lucky that the elections were held at a time it was done, because in the last 6 months there was a downturn in the economy as far as the consumption is concerned, the exports is concerned. They were all going down. So had it been delayed by another 3-4 months, this government would have been in a very difficult situation. So it is time for his government to now quickly act on that and make sure that the economy is is put back on the rails. So for that, he needs the cooperation of the other parties. And throughout his speech, he referred to how he requires the cooperation from everyone.
Right.
And it's not going to be difficult for him because he has such a huge majority, and there are only two other parties which have got him to double figures. That is the Janata Dal United and Shiv Sena. So he needs to give maybe just one or two representation to them, and even they are not in a position to demand what they want, so he can decide what portfolios should be given to them. And I hope and trust that he will bring in some, experts and technocrats into the government so that, he can give a different kind of a dimension to this new government.
All right, we're completely running out of time, but I have to go to Amy Kazmi quickly for a closing remark, especially on that aspect.
Look, I think it's what the previous speaker said, that in fact the challenge now isn't like some rival or some, I think he has two challenges. One is he wants to improve upon what he did last time. He wants to do better and deliver more than he, did and delivered last time in his first term. So he's going to try to, have an even more successful term, I would say. He's a guy who wants to keep doing better and showing better results. But I think it's true that the real challenge is, economic now. The world economy is going through a lot of jitters and nervousness. You have Brexit, which is, causing a lot of trouble in kind of the European economies. You have rising tensions between the US and China over trade, which is basically making investors nervous about emerging markets and lowering appetite for risk. So,
right.
I mean, the economy has been kind of, people haven't really been paying attention, but the economy is softening and weakening. And the question is, what is the formula and what is the solution and what proposals does Mr. Modi and the new government have to offer to kind of, support it and see that growth doesn't continue to falter, which it is actually now faltering.
Right, and all eyes on what the immediate priorities of the new government will be. For now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also in that speech said that one must not lay too much emphasis on the speculation that has been doing the rounds on the portfolios as well. Of course, that's going to be the next point of discussion over the next couple of days. We're going to leave it there for the moment. R.K. Upadhyay, Arun Anand and Amy Kazmi, appreciate very much you joining us on the broadcast with all of those perspectives. Narendra Modi has been elected unanimously as the leader of the National Democratic Alliance. In that speech that was made by him just a short while back, he's regarded this election as a movement for social change. We're going to delve deeper into all of those areas, but a quick break at this point.